All right, so welcome. Hi, loves. Welcome to Speak Now podcast. This is your girl, Heather. I have my special guest on today, Tamika. Hey, girl.
Hey, hi
Tamika, we
everyone.
are, woo, okay. So we've been talking, conversing back and forth about what it is that we are going to be talking about today. And that is accountability in relationships. Um, how so important um it is to have relationships. We know that relationships is one of the main resources that a person we could have here on this earth is relationships. But when we talk about accountability, what does that necessarily look to you? What does accountability look? What does accountability look from your standpoint? Like, how does that look for you? Accountability.
Okay. So, accountability for me means like acknowledging the effect of your behavior.
Mhm.
Acknowledging the effect your behavior has on the person that you're dealing with, and owning how you contribute to the negative cycle or contribute to the cycle, period, or to the relationship. Um, I think when we are in relationships, period, whether it be with an intimate person, partner, or with a relationship with a family member, or relationship with somebody that you work with,
Mhm.
everyone within that relationship has to be accountable. Meaning,
Mhm.
you acknowledge, the effects of the behavior or what goes on in within that parameter of that relationship. And it depends on the type of relationship you have,
Mhm.
because sometimes you can have a relationship with the person and it just may be very like say you talk to your coworkers at work.
Mhm.
That relationship is not going to be as intimate as it would be with a partner or with a sister or a loved one. It may be
Right.
a short standing relationship. So that's what it is. That's what accountability means to me. Um,
Okay.
you pretty much taking responsibility is very important. Being honest with people, whatever
Mhm.
relationship you're in, you have to take
Yeah.
responsibility. You have to be honest. You have to act. In certain situations, you don't react in certain ways. You have to think about. You have to process first before reacting. And be willing to forgive. You know, whatever goes on, you be willing to forgive. So
So good.
yeah,
So good. So good. So many key points mentioned, especially the forgiveness part. Um because sometimes I think having prior discussions, like going into a relationship, do you believe or think expectations should be addressed from the beginning? Do you think
absolutely,
that? Mhm. So,
absolutely.
yeah. So when things arise, it won't catch you by surprise. You know what I'm saying? Like it won't.
At the
Yeah.
beginning, when you set those expectations, when you meet people, we're
Mhm.
talking on an intimate level, right now, right? Like going into a relationship
Yes.
with a partner.
A partner. Oh,
When you
yeah.
first meet people, the
Mhm.
expectations should be, it should be addressed. Because that other person may not want the same thing that you want, or you may not want the same thing that that person is wanting. And so I don't think much time needs to be wasted in between that. So if we would learn how to be honest and open, and learn to
Yes.
communicate well with others, with each other, then we won't, people won't be so. deceived or
Mhm.
misled, or you know, it won't cause a
Absolutely.
lot of
By
ill feeling.
addressing Yes, absolutely. By addressing what it is you expect from the relationship in the beginning, you know?
Absolutely.
So, because I think without setting those boundaries, I would call them boundaries too, even though they can be said expectations or boundaries. But, um, address it and from the beginning. I know I've had prior relationships where they were not addressed in the beginning, and then later on in the relationship,
It's
find
like, oh,
out,
surprise. Oh,
like,
oh
oh,
wow.
in the other party, like, "Oh, I never knew you even felt like or I never knew that you
Yeah.
thought that," so I think that is very important to address those things in the beginning. So good. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been able to implement accountability in your relationships? Like, what are some things that you could share with viewers about, um, like what are some things that you have implemented? Um, and I know we just kind of went over one, just of course, laying those boundaries out in the beginning.
Setting
Um,
boundaries, taking
yep.
responsibility, being able to
Yeah.
communicate. Communication is very, very big. I don't care what type of relationship you are in. Communication is very important. It's key. It's always
Come
key.
on.
And just knowing the
Oh,
level of capacity of your of your expectations. What are your
yes.
values? You know,
Mm,
so
okay.
you those are things that I utilize in, when I'm dealing with different people, or different types of relationships, even with an intimate partner. Hey, it's always important for you to just be upfront, be honest. Honesty is it too, as well. So yeah.
So communication though, skip
Hmm.
that over because we know that communication is one of the main reasons why a lot of relationships fail, lack of communication, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what makes a person comfortable, approaching you? Like what are some things that you would want someone to like how would you want someone to approach you and making you feel comfortable in communicating with them? Like, if that does that make sense to you? Like, what what are some ways that a person will make could make you feel comfortable with
Hmm.
you, communicating with them? Because sometimes the approach is not good. Like, just say for instance, you just met somebody
Hmm.
and the conversation goes from, you know, "Oh, let's go on a date," to "Come over to my house," just that fast. And it's like,
Yeah.
um, how are you able to make that person, feel not necessarily comfortable, but how are you able to be, more approachable in communicating with you? Or what are some ways that you have like, what are some things that you have done um, to make your communication effective to someone else? What are some things that you would like
when
to
you meet
share?
when you meet a person, there's gonna be
Mhm.
some sort of attraction, I guess.
Yeah.
um if you are there, whether it be, people are always should be able to communicate something. If the person is trying to date you, or trying to get to know you, at
Mhm.
least that has to be communicated, right?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So within that part,
Absolutely.
time of that being communicated, one of the other things that you can do, like with the question you just asked about how does something turn into asking you out on a date, then turns into
Turn it to
come to
come to
my
my
house.
house. Look.
Again, it's okay. You have to communicate that to that person. Hey, listen, I just met you. Um,
Right.
I'm not comfortable with that. You have to be able to to say what you mean, you know.
Yes.
And
So good.
if you're not comfortable with it, it's about just communicating, telling somebody how you feel, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not gonna always be flowers,
Right.
or peachy, should I say, but I'm
Yes.
being able to get that over to a person. It's more better for a person to understand where you're coming from than for, you know, um, being misled and then say, "Oh, I thought this is what you wanted," or this,
Mm.
you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So
It
it just
goes back
all
to
it goes back to the communication style and how you approach it, you know,
yes.
how you talk, just how you communicate with that person.
And setting those expectations in the beginning.
Mhm.
Just so, like, just say if a person come to you and say, "Oh, come to my house," but you've already set the expectation that, "Listen, we only can meet designated, designated areas in the beginning around, public places."
Mhm.
So, if they ask you, "Oh, come to my house," and you're like, "Wait a minute, you've crossed the boundary now." Now you have
Right.
to have now they have to own up to, that accountability. 'Cause
Right. Right.
mhm. So,
Yeah.
communication is important. What about, um, like, have you ever well, before I even ask you that, so going into any relationship, we have to know that we are of value, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I feel that that is so important that we have people in our circle, people around us that acknowledge that, hey, this is valuable, right? You're
Mhm.
valuable because
Right.
that's the next thing that we're getting ready to talk about assets and liabilities, right?
Mhm.